Ethan, I think it's time for our cold opening, and we have 2 new cold segments coming up.
Yeah, we got hockey coverage and a surprise segment, last segment, coming up next on Ohio Sports Zone. Welcome back on Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan Graham, Bobby Levine, just like every week with you. Bobby, a big week on the women's hardwood. A 68-51 win over Eastern Michigan last Saturday, and an 80-67 win over the Western Michigan Broncos last night. Bobby, good win for the Cats. Take us through it.
Yeah, absolutely. Big win for Bob Bolden and his company. The Lady Cats got it started rolling in the second quarter. Got up big at 47-31 at halftime. By the third quarter, the Broncos came back and got in within 6 points, and then before the end of it was down by 4 in the fourth quarter. Lady Cats got on a roll and ended up winning that game by 13. A huge performance by 4 starters that got over double-digit figures. I'm starting out with Hannah Bossinger. She had 13 points, season high for her. Yamani Jenkins, the point guard, had 15 points. Kiera Lampkins, this is her 24th game in a row getting over double-digit figures. She had 16 points and 6 assists. And then Katie Barker, a redshirt freshman, we'll talk a little bit later about her. She had 18 points, her career high.
Yeah, it was a much improved defensive game from the Bobcats. We talked about that last week as a talking point. 24 points off 18 turnovers. And another note from that game, that was Bob Bolden's 77th win at Ohio University, tied for now second all time. So good stuff for the Cats.
Absolutely, yeah. The Bobcats got 18 turnovers, as you said, Ethan, and they only committed 12. That's very low from what they've had. They've had upwards of 15 to 20. They keeping it low like that, you can turn that into points easily for the Bobcats. They did that, scoring over 80 in big points for them.
You know, you talk about the scoring distribution in that game. That hasn't always been the case this year for the Bobcats, having 4 double figures. Bobby, is the scoring distribution something you can see the Bobcats continuing going forward this year?
Absolutely. I mean, Katie Barker coming out of nowhere. Huge role for these Lady Cats. Again, redshirt freshman. She sat out last year, taking her redshirt a year off. She's a true sophomore technically in the classroom. But for her to do that and to help out the Cats when they need her big time, I mean, you take off those 18 points, the Bobcats lose by 5 points, so huge performance by her. If she can keep it up, the Cats could easily keep up that 80-point pace.
Yeah, and you talk about the other end of the game defensively. Jasmine Weatherspoon, one of their best players, 6'2" forward, an absolute stud. She is battling an ankle injury right now. Bobby, she has to get better for these Bobcats, or what else?
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this the last couple of weeks with the Bobcats on the men's side, with Antonio Campbell being the big powerhouse down low. Jasmine Weatherspoon the same way for the ladies. She ended up hurting and got a bruised ankle. Hannah Bossinger, talked to her earlier tonight. She said that she's going to sit out for this weekend, so expect Katie Barker to step up once again for the Cats. If she's out for a long period of time, that is Jasmine Weatherspoon, the Cats could be in some deep trouble, but she says she should be back by next week, midweek, against there'll be Central Michigan on Wednesday.
Yeah, and you saw Katie Barker had that outstanding performance, 18 points out of nowhere. Really what you like to see out of your bench. You know, it really speaks to the amount of depth the Bobcats have. They go at Miami this weekend. Now, do you think Katie Barker can keep that, scoring touch going? And as a whole, do you think this team can come away with a win at Oxford?
Absolutely. I mean, Taylor Agler has been pretty much main number 2 guard coming out for the Bobcats. And with her and now Katie Barker stepping up, because every time it seems like Yamani Jenkins gets subbed out, they put Katie Barker in for her. So the 2-guard system up top. And I think Bob's been waiting for her to go off like this, and it finally clicked. Everything was rolling for the Cats. And again, you score over 80 points in women's basketball, you're giving yourself a huge percentage chance to win the ball game.
Yeah, certainly we've seen that scoring potential there all year, finally coming to fruition. Good things to see. Bobby, later in the week, Ohio will go to Central Michigan, a Western team. And how good is this West? You have teams like Northern Illinois, Western Michigan, Central Michigan, and Ball State, all very capable of coming out of the MAC. How good is the West, and are the Bobcats going to have to go through the West if they want to end up in the 64 teams?
Absolutely. It's going to be a tough one. I mean, the West is much better than the East. Exact opposite of what we saw in football. I guess you could say the exact same thing in the football. Excuse me. The West is much more dominant. Those teams on the top, though, are all 6 or 7-1. Bobcats are pretty much playing themselves to get the best seed in the East. As you said, though, they play Miami this Saturday. Then they go on the road to Central Michigan next Wednesday. That Central Michigan game is going to really tell how good the Cats are. If Jasmine Witherspoon can get healthy and play that game, and they can get a big win, that can show either how good Ohio is or how bad, the West is. But this could be some 3 huge game series. Again, the Bobcats are not the best team on the road. They're 9-1 at home, which is good, but they're running sub 500 on the road, and then playing on the MAC on the road is very tough to do late here in January, going into February and March.
Yeah, and you see that in every sport, really, in Mid-American Conference athletics. That's what makes it so good. Everyone's so competitive. There's a lot of parity. Everyone's close. Anything can really happen. But I want to go back to that Miami game this weekend. Yeah. A big game for everyone, big rivalry, Ohio's biggest rivalry. What are some keys to that game that are going to have to happen for Ohio to come out on top?
Well, just don't get in your own head. The Bobcats are, again, the best team in the East. Miami of Ohio has 1 win and one of the worst teams in the East. They're a much better team on paper. They're a much better team on the court. They stick to their guns. They do not turn the ball over. Obviously, you're going to have to distribute the ball more. That Jasmine is going to be sitting out this game, but they know this coming into it. So they have a couple practices beforehand to get everything grooving. And I expect them to come out and win probably somewhere between 84 to 54. 30-point win I expect for the Bobcats.
Well, hopefully that is the case. Coming up next, we have the voice of Ohio Bobcats hockey, Shane Dazen, going to join us here on Ohio Sports Zone.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back, Ohio Sports Zone. Ethan Graham with my good friend and yours, the voice of Ohio hockey, Shane Dazen. Shane, thanks for joining us.
Thank you guys for having me. Really appreciate it.
Well, a big weekend last week for the Bobcats. 2 wins over Rutgers, an 8-5 barn burner last Friday that saw the Bobcats come out on top. And then Saturday, the second game of the series, a 6-1 win over Rutgers. A much better performance from the Bobcats. Shane, take us through those 2 games last weekend. How did the Bobcats perform?
Yeah, Ethan, on Friday night, Bobcats came out early, got up to a big 2-0 advantage in the first period, and we saw them kind of step back a little bit. Coach Hogan wasn't really too pleased with the effort from the onset of that first period after they jumped out to that 2-0 advantage, let Rutgers kind of get back in the game a little bit. And although the shots didn't really say it in its entirety, 54-19 in favor of the Bobcats there, Ohio really did allow Rutgers to kind of get back into that game, stay around, and I think that's something that Coach Hogan really wanted to iron out going into that Saturday night's game. So a couple big performers for the Bobcats in that Friday night's action was forward Liam Geither, number 12 for the Cats. 2 goals again for Liam Geither. Really in a sneaky offensive presence on that second line for the Bobcats. Really gels nicely with their big men, Joey Breslin, and one of their other forwards there, Matt Rudin, on that second line. So he was really a key player for the Bobcats in that Friday night's victory.
Something we saw from that game was Jimmy Thomas, who's been a stud all year for the Bobcats, let 5 in, uncharacteristic of him. If you're Coach Hogan and the rest of the team, is that anything you're worried about going forward, Jimmy Thomas's performance that weekend?
Well, it's Jimmy Thomas's first game back, coming back from injury, so you have to expect him to kind of work out the kinks a little bit there, getting back in the lineup, making sure that he's positionally sound, and trying to make up for some things that he missed when he was out of the lineup. But Aaron Alkema get the start on Saturday night for the Bobcats, give Jimmy Thomas a little bit of a rest to kind of work himself back into action for the Cats. And Alkema did also a really nice job on Saturday night, gave up 1 goal on 19 shots, got his team the victory. He's 8-0-1 this year. So really nice problem for the Bobcats to have when it comes to goaltending. 3 proven goaltenders who have gotten the job done in the past for them. Look for them to step up and kind of rotate through for the rest of the season here and into the playoffs.
Yeah, to expand on that Saturday game, Coach Hogan was much more pleased with the effort, but still critical of the defense and the special teams. So that is something that the Bobcats have had to address all season moving forward. But moving forward to this weekend, an off weekend for the Bobcats, it is the 6th annual Ice Ghost American Cancer Society charity game. Shane, tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, this was an event that was started about 6 years ago by Coach Dan Morris of the Bobcats, then Coach Dan Morris of the Bobcats,
Sure.
obviously replaced now by Coach Hogan. But really an event charitable in its nature, brought about by a couple guys on the team a couple years ago who had a mother who was diagnosed with cancer, and Coach wanted to give back to his players and give back to the community. So they put this on every single year. It's raised over $30,000 within the last 5 years, and hoping for another big turnout this weekend at Bird Arena, playing the American Cancer Society Ice Ghost, which is a group full of past alumni from the organization. So should be a really fun weekend for everybody to come down to the rink, catch a couple guys that they haven't seen in a while on ice, and a good lively competition, and all in the spirit of fun.
Yeah, blast from the past. I'm sure we'll see some offensive hockey this weekend. And that won't be the first time we've seen some offensive hockey for the Bobcats this year. It seems like almost every game, the Bobcats are outshooting the other team by quite a bit. I think it's 4 games in a row they've had 50-plus shots. Speak to that. Why is that happening? Why is Ohio able to outshoot other teams with such consistency?
It really has to do with Coach Hogan's system that he's put in place here at Ohio. They play a really systematic, percentage hockey type system. So they're putting those shots on from wherever they're at on the ice. They're not looking to do anything too cute. They get down to the nitty gritty, throw pucks on net, try to drive into the crease to find those rebounds and kick those pucks out to the corners, work that cycle game, and really keep the pressure down low and in the offensive zone. So when you're looking at Ohio and what they've been able to do offensively, especially with the shot counts that we've seen in the last couple games and throughout the entire season, is really starting from the top down for Coach Hogan, preaching consistency, preaching ethic, preaching hard work in the corners and in front of the net, and getting to those greasy areas and not being afraid, to make the smart play when it's there for you. So.
Yeah, and really that offensive play, it's not all from the forwards. It starts in the neutral zone. Ohio has been great on the back end this year. They've had guys like Grant Hazel. We saw Jake Houston get 2 goals last weekend even. Really just a good brand of hockey from top to bottom, like you said. All 12 forwards, all 6 defensemen really contributing. Moving forward, special teams, particularly the power play, has been something Ohio has struggled with the last couple weeks. 0 for 8 Friday night, and last weekend they struggled tremendously on the power play. This has been something that Coach Hogan's been very concerned about. If you're Coach Hogan, how do you address this? How are the Bobcats going to adjust this as we now get closer to nationals?
Yeah, and we took that onus against Delaware there, 0 for 8 on the power play. It's something you don't want to see happen on any given night. But really, this has been a trend for the Bobcats that they've really tried to work out, and they haven't been too successful recently trying to find scoring opportunities on the power play. And it's not for their lack of effort. They're getting the shots. They're getting the opportunities to score. They're just not finding the back of the net. And I think that that's something that Coach Hogan really needs to reevaluate maybe as he's moving forward here. Looking at the Ohio, they roll their forward units on the power play, so they don't have a true power play unit. They don't have a true penalty kill unit. They have guys that rotate in and out, and that's a benefactor in the fact that some guys are finding some opportunities in the lineup where they normally wouldn't be at, but at the same time, it's also a detriment because you're not getting your best talent on the ice for that power play at any given time. So Coach Hogan maybe reevaluating, trying to shift up the lines, maybe try to create a power play unit that he sticks with going into the ACHA tournament.
Real quick, 30 seconds before we go to break. Ohio's next series will be Pitt at home next weekend. What's one thing fans should look for in that series?
Pitt's a really good hockey team. Don't underestimate them. I know Ohio has done a very nice job taking care of things at home this year and against ACHA competition, and I think that a lot of people tend to overlook this matchup being it is on Siblings Weekend. A lot of fun festivities coming up here for people at Ohio, but Pitt's a good hockey team. They're a quick hockey team. They have had a lot of success this year, so don't take them lightly, and stay on your grind and stay on that forecheck and keep burying it.
Shane, thank you for joining us. I'm sure we'll have you back. Coming up next, we're going to transition back to the hardwood, the men's side of the game on Ohio Sports Zone.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. but it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
Welcome back to Ohio Sports Zone. I am Bobby Levine. Alongside me is Ethan Graham. Finally get to bring one in here. This is great.
Yeah, this is great, just like old times.
Just like old times. We're talking about men's basketball here. The men's team right now is 12-6, 4-3, and you could pretty much say they're treading water without Antonio Campbell, the big man down low. This past week, they lost to Toledo in a heartbreaking loss. Ethan, what happened?
Yeah, it was a 79-76 loss, and you really got the sense the whole game that Ohio was in control of this game. You thought they'd just pull it out at the end, but the game got away from them in the second half. They got away from their style of game. Toledo got hot. It was a perfect storm of all the wrong things happening for the Bobcats. Something to take away from this game that was positive. Jason Carter continues to do everything that is asked of him. True freshman. He's not a true center, but with Antonio being down and Doug Taylor often getting into foul trouble, Jason is forced to be a true center. He's only 6'7", absolutely does not have the height. Most guys in the MAC, most teams in the MAC, they're at least throwing a 6'9", a 6'10" guy out there, other than an Akron who is Isaiah Johnson, who's nearly 7 feet tall. But Jason Carter stepped up, 20-7 that game. Seems like every week we're talking about him, setting a new career high. Toledo, like I said, absolutely dominating in terms of field goal percentage, 53.6%. I don't care how good a defense you're playing. You're putting hands in guys' faces. They're making shots. You're going to have a tough time winning games when the other team's hitting 50% of their shots. Free throw shooting continues to be an issue for the Bobcats. Only 64%. You got to hit your free throws. I believe they missed 6. That would have been the difference in the game had they, maybe even hit half of those. We would have been forcing overtime. And, it just came down to the last minute. Ohio was able to get some stops when they needed them down 3, but Toledo was able to bail themselves out, get two offensive rebounds on the same set, second chance points that ultimately killed the Bobcats. And it was just size. The guys were in the right position. Carter was out there, he's in the right position, and Taylor is out there, he's in the right position. But Carter is 6'7", the other guys are 6'10". That's not good math. They're going to get out rebounded, and they did, and that ended up being the downfall for Ohio. But moving forward at BG this weekend, certainly a winnable game. Ohio struggles at BG, but these are the kind of games they're going to have to win, without Antonio Campbell to stay afloat, to stay, near that top 4 and hopefully secure a bye that first week in Cleveland.
Absolutely. You talked about the height issue there with Antonio Campbell, and then Wally Mumpierre was out earlier this season taking his red shirt. The height drops off tremendously. You talked about only 6'7", guy replacing him. Who's going to have to step up? I mean, you talked about Jason Carter. Is he going to have to be the guy?
Yeah, Jason Carter, I think, is going to be the guy who starts at center. He is probably going to have to play in the 30-plus minutes a game category. But someone who, really needs to step up, I've noticed, is Doug Taylor. Doug, was able to come off from the bench. He was very comfortable in his role, and it was the role that was appropriate for him, about 20 minutes a game, get your rebounds, and really not much of an offensive presence. And he wasn't needed to be an offensive presence, Bobby, because Antonio, MAC Player of the Year, probably the best player in the MAC. But now that he's gone, everyone's going to have to step up scoring. Everyone's going to have to shoot more. Jerron, pass first guy, still pass first guy, but has to shoot more. Jordan Dardis, usually only taking 6 to 8 shots a game. He's going to have to shoot more if he's open. And we have seen Jordan Dardis shoot more if he's open. Kenny Kaminsky, he's no stranger to pulling the trigger. He started out rough the other night against Toledo, 1 for 9, did pick it up a little bit as the game went on, but Kenny's going to have to refine his shooting stroke here. Saul talked earlier in the year that when Kenny struggled, he just needs to relax, so hopefully Kenny can get that right. That's going to be huge for the Bobcats.
Absolutely. And now, again, looking forward to this weekend. You mentioned going on the road to Bowling Green. Can the Bobcats somehow pull out a win? And I guess you can say just keep treading water. I mean, that's the goal right now, just keep treading water until late February, get hot at the right time, hopefully, before we go to Cleveland, or even we get the bye going to Cleveland, and then move forward from there.
Yeah, these are, like I said, the types of games they're going to have to win. If they're in that top 4, that is a tremendous victory with all the adversity that Ohio's had to deal with this season. Bowling Green is a place that the Bobcats traditionally struggle going there. But they are 8-12. They've struggled all year this year in basketball. And these are the kind of games Ohio's going to have to win. Bowling Green, like Ohio, doesn't have a lot of depth. Ohio only rolling 8 guys off the bench. Bowling Green certainly is, going to have their challenges with Ohio. Ohio's talented players, Jaron, fourth in the nation in assists. I expect him to continue that pace even without Antonio, really distribute the ball more. And three-point shooting is going to have to improve for the Bobcats, but mainly free throws. That has killed them the last couple of games, really compromised their chances, pulling away. We saw Northern Illinois. They were playing well, but weren't really able to pull away towards the end, in part due to the free throw shooting.
Absolutely. Live and die by the soul ball, deep in the combo, bang, like we always hear it on the radio. We're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to have not only our game show, but a surprise ending first time on air here on Ohio Sports Zone.
So, I'm kind of new here, but I've noticed a trend. My human does this funny thing where she goes around and gets all my toys, and then she hides them in that basket by the door. But it's always the same basket, and it's always in the same place. And then she acts so surprised when I find them, but, she's putting them in the same basket. Again. It's like, hello, that's where you put it last time. You were the worst at hide and go seek.
Clean kitchen surfaces, utensils, and hands with soapy water. 1 in 6 Americans will get sick from food poisoning this year. Keep your family safer. Check your steps at foodsafety.gov.
And we're back with the odds game. Standing on my right is Bobby Levine, and on my left is Ethan Graham. And we're going to run through a series of questions here, and I want you guys to give me some percentages, tell me what you think might happen, might not happen, and I'll decide who's the winner after we're finished. So let's get started here. First question goes to Ethan. Ethan, what are the odds that the men's team earns a bye in the NCAA tournament for basketball?
Yeah, the MAC tournament, Ohio has to be in the top 4 to get that bye, avoid that home game in the quarterfinals, that bye in the first round. I'm going to put it about 52%, just over 50. Ohio has some serious depth issues. They're only rolling 8 deep right now. They're going to have to roll more guys out there. Maybe you can see some Ellis Dozier out there, some Jalen McDonald, really take the pressure off those guys. It's hard to play 35-plus minutes a night, every night, and I really see that at about a 52% chance. I see them, it's very possible that they get hot at the right time and, can get that top 4. Advancing, making it to the championship game, even winning the tournament, different story, but I'm going to put it at 52% exactly.
Right now, like we said last segment, we've been treading water. The loss to Antonio Campbell was the biggest loss you could have all year. It's the one guy you cannot lose. I got embarrassed last year on this segment with Mitchell Lyons. I gave us a 0% chance of even making a bye. This year I'm going to give ourselves a 2% chance. I just don't think we have it in us. I think they're a lot better team. I think Akron's already a lock. We'll see after that the next 3. I just don't think we have the guns this year. Unfortunately for the Bobcats, I think this is the end of the road.
Both solid points for both of you guys, but I got to go with Ethan's optimism here. We'll go with the 52 and the Bobcats making the tournament, and we'll move on to our second question here. Bobby, I'll let you take this one first. Odds that the women's team make the NCAA tournament this year?
I have been an advocate, Ohio women's basketball watcher, my entire 5 years here at Ohio University. 3 years ago, when we first made the NCAA tournament with Kiana Black leading the way, we were outstanding. Last year, we were so high hoped with her as a senior. Did not work out. We lost in the semifinals of the MAC championship to Buffalo. Lost 3 times. This year, we got the bad guy off our back. We beat Buffalo. This year, I do think it's a lock. I don't want to say 100% chance because I don't want to jinx us, but it's definitely upper 90s. We get the chance to end up repeating ourselves like we did 2 years ago and end up hopefully making a run and making a name for Ohio University. So I'm going to say 98%.
You make some good points there, but I'm going to handicap it a little bit lower. 65%, this has been one of the best times for Ohio women's basketball. But, you lose a player like Jasmine Weatherspoon, who's an absolute game changer out there, and she should be back, but with ankles, you never know. Obviously, we just saw Antonio go down on the men's side. So if this team is, able to stay healthy, able to battle through a very competitive women's MAC division, like we talked about earlier in the show, they're able to get around the Ball States, the Western Michigans, the Buffaloes in the world, not particularly tall order, they'll be there. But I'm going to say about 65%. There's a lot of things that could happen with this team. but certainly above 50. I think this team is very capable of putting together a postseason run.
No, both you guys agreed on that we would see the Cats in the tournament. I'm going to have to go with Bobby on this one. Guy knows his thing when it comes to women's basketball, and got to trust the facts here. Go with Bobby with the victory for that second round. So, number 3 here, we'll go back to Ethan for this one. Odds that OU's club hockey team wins the ACHA National Tournament this year.
Well, winning the tournament would be something that we haven't seen for a very long time here in Athens. This team has played some great hockey this year, 21-4-1 record, absolutely dominated at times. They're third in the latest ACHA hockey ranking. I'm going to put it at about 45%. They have been having some systemic, major struggles last couple games. The power play, not where it needs to be. The penalty kill, not where it needs to be. Their neutral zone play, not as sharp as it has been in the early part of the season. Sometimes they get beat out of the zone. The breakout passes have not been where they need to be so far. So I really look for that. If that neutral zone play improves, and they have the goaltending to do it. Absolutely the most important position in hockey, maybe the most important position in sports. They go 3 deep. Ryan Helchian, Aaron Alkema, and Jimmy Thomas, all 3 very capable goalies that could carry a team to the ACHA National Championship. So, if they get hot at the right time, they fix those neutral zone play problems, they work on the breakouts, they really play an aggressive brand of hockey. That's when they're at their best, when they're pinching in, getting pucks deep, really forechecking, really playing the cycle game. I put it about 45% because there's a lot of things have to come together at one time for that, and a lot depends on that hot goalie as well.
Absolutely. I'm also agree with you, but I think it's going to be a little higher percentage. I'm going to give you that a little bit later. In the NHL, what it takes to win a Stanley Cup, you have to have young studs, go-getters, and you also have the veterans. And I think Ohio University has exactly that with the veteran leadership. They have a senior-studded team. Aaron Alkema, as you said, in goal, he's been the goalie for the last couple of years for the Ohio Bobcats. You have Liam Geither, who you talked about 2 segments ago, also very quick stud, getting the shots off, getting 50-plus every game. That's giving yourself a chance to get multiple goals. More goals, that's all that you need to do is win. I think it's going to be 65% chance they're going to have an odds of winning the national championship. I think it's the last time they did it was back in 2005, I believe. So good luck to the Bobcats.
Yeah, we talk about what it takes to win championships. Team I'm very fond of, the Pittsburgh Penguins, knows what it's like to win championships. He brings up the NHL. He gets the point there. And we'll move on to our 4th question. Kira Lampkins, does she get her jersey retired?
All right, I'm going to answer this one first. I'm going to actually go 100% yes. This team the last 4 years, like I said, with Bob Bolden, and then before her with Kiana Black, outstanding. The best probably 4-year period Ohio University has ever gone through. The wins she's had her freshman year, they did not do so well. They had 9 wins. After that, they won 27-5, 26-9 last year, and this year they're already off to a 15-4 start. She's 77-37 in entire career. She's had over 1,500 points. And she has a 67.5 winning percentage. That is incredible compared to the years we were in the dark ages from the 90s to the 2000s. 100% her, Kira Lampkins, Kiana Black, and Bob Bolden should all have their numbers, and then coach retired.
Yeah, I'm actually going to have to disagree with you, Bobby. I'm going to say there is a 110% chance that Kira Lampkins gets her number retired. This is the golden age of Ohio University women's basketball. Like you said, 4 years ago, the program was nothing. Bob Bolden just came in here, build an absolute powerhouse women's basketball team. So Kira Lampkins, 100%, 110% chance. It's an absolute lock. Take it to the bank.
And the pound on the clipboard gets the job done for Ethan. We got a tie game here, and that's how we'll wrap it up. 2-2 for both of them, and we'll have to settle this some other time, guys, right?
I'm down. I'm always here. But the question I have this weekend is, it's going to be very, very cold. Do you think we can actually outlast this winter this weekend?
It's a good question. I'm more of a sports guy. I actually don't know. But I know a guy who does know, Blake Hardesty, over in the weather corner. Blake, take it away.
Thanks, guys. Well, it has been one roller coaster of a week for weather-wise here in the Southeast Ohio area. Started out kind of sunny about midweek, mid-50s almost all week, mildly warm, really above average most of the season. Then Mother Nature finally decided it was time for winter on Thursday as colder temperatures moved in and snow began to fall here in the Athens area. And that's going to continue through the weekend. We're going to have some snow flurries throughout Ohio most of the weekend as a low pressure system moves up to our north, bringing those snow pockets here to the area. Now each of those snow areas is going to be about a dusting of snow. So throughout the whole weekend, you're going to be about 2 inches of snow throughout most of the state of Ohio. That's going to be throughout the whole weekend, though, so you don't have to worry about it all piling up all at once. So if you're planning on traveling anywhere in Ohio to maybe catch a Bobcats game on the road, those should be just fine for you going up to those games. Temperature-wise, it's going to be in the lower 20s most of this weekend. It's going to be a pretty chilly one, and with winds about 5 to 10 miles per hour, the wind chill is really going to be a factor here this weekend, so make sure you bundle up if you're going outside. And if you're going up north to Cleveland, they're experiencing lake effect snow this weekend, so you might have some higher totals of snow up towards Cleveland, about 4 inches of snow. So be careful if you're going up near Cleveland this weekend. As for the start of the work week, next week on Monday, we're looking at about a high of 32 degrees, so warming up a little bit compared to the 20s we're going to be in this weekend, with about a 40% chance of snow. And then on Tuesday, the snow kind of moves out in the area overnight, and we're going to get into some clear weather on Tuesday with about high of 42, warming back up into the 40s. Still kind of cold, but not as cold as it could be for southeast Ohio. The low for that night is going to be 24 degrees. So it's going to be still pretty chilly, and I think Mother Nature finally did decide it's finally winter, and she's going to keep winter sticking around here for southeastern Ohio. So that's all I have for all the crew here and the talent, Ethan, Bobby, and Shane here tonight. For everyone at Ohio Sports Zone, see you next week.